Hello, Professor, fellow classmates. My name is Daniel C. Beach. I will be giving a speech on how online dating uh, is not only a positive means to finding someone, be it short-term or long-term, but I believe it is the way to go forward. And I'd like to think at the conclusion of my speech, I believe that finding your significant other is not only possible, but probable, and you should not feel uncomfortable doing so going through an online venue. Now I'll start off with the explanation of the normal way of dating. Say we go to a bar. You're either the third leg in an awkward threesome, or you're flying solo. Now I don't know about yourself, but I'm not an avid aviator, so I tend to crash and burn a lot. It's a numbers game. And let's face it, 10 years from now, I'd like to imagine that speech that I give to everybody about how I met my significant other is not going to be, we were both inebriated, and one thing led to another. It's just not very classy. Definitely don't want to bring it up to the in-laws. And you can avoid this fiasco if you find someone with things in common. Possibly not having to go to locations of a dubious nature. Online websites will actually help you with that. Now, of course, there's a stigma that dating online, it's not considered normal. Now, I believe with the newest generation, that stigma is not present because they kind of grew up with online social media and all the other aspects and trappings of society today. The previous generation grew up without it. So that transition, they have a previous stigma already put in place on what is considered normal. So one more generation, for the most part, it should be rather transparent on the opinion of using online dating as a tool. So that in itself will remedy itself. But there's a lot of stigmas also associated with meeting strangers online. Well, let's face it, realistically it's a little callous because you're meeting strangers in real life as well. So you have the same pros and cons present in both situations, but you're only looking at one side. People just find it slightly uncomfortable. Now the websites themselves also solve another issue for you. Imagine your best friend Sally knows a guy, and the only thing you have in common is that you're both single, and she would like you to be happy, so they can start going on double dates or whatever. It turns out after about 4 weeks, you and Sally have nothing in common. Well, online dating websites solve that for you as well. By filtering your likes and dislikes, you'll identify a compatibility score. And if you think of it logically, this makes absolute sense. You're finding people that share the same likes and that also share the same dislikes to some extent. You know, big factors like whether they smoke, whether they want kids. You'll be able to find that out right away, as long as they're being honest. Same applies in real life. Not everyone's always transparent. It's also present online. Now, you also hear about the happy stories of couples that met online. I'm sure you've seen the commercials for OkCupid. You know how they're always standing next to each other and they present themselves to look happy. Well, that's not just a facade. Through compatibility, they're more likely to prosper in a relationship versus two strangers just meeting. As spontaneous as that romantic idea is, it's just logically not going to make a lot of sense. Now, that's the second point that supports online dating. The third one being to completely obliterate the negative stigma surrounding online dating. You look at the statistics behind it. Like I said, with the filtering system, you've already eliminated finding someone whether they're compatible with you. And if you look at the statistics for those websites, there's a high percentage of successes. Now, this does take into account both long-term and short-term relationships, because for the people out there not looking for a long-term or serious relationship, this has become a huge outlet versus going to a bar and maybe investing 3 hours every night and finding someone. You now can just go onto a website and find people with similar interests. But for the long-term relationships, I feel that that's the hardest percentage, because let's say you do meet someone, you find yourselves fairly agreeable, and then 5 years later, it just didn't work out. Now, if you had that website, you have a better chance, a better likelihood at least, it's not a guarantee like everything in life, that you're more likely to succeed. And ultimately, I mean, that's a boon. If you think of it as an investment, a little bit of your time to create a profile, you actually improve your chances at finding your significant other. 1 hour. Yeah, thank you very much. I would take it in a heartbeat. And whether the illusion that dating online is not considered normal or ultimately depends on the individual's resolve to meet someone that meets their criteria. So, like I said before, inherently, there are going to be people online that are going to lie. But that happens in real life as well, in the physical manifestation of meeting someone. So you really can't count that as a negative stigma against online dating. So I challenge you, if you're like everyone else, innately human, you don't want to be alone. So create a profile today and just see where it goes.